Ladies and gentlemen, I want to speak to you today about something that weighs heavy on my heart. You see, we live in a world where kindness is often mistaken for weakness, where a good heart is sometimes trampled upon. But I want to tell you this: not everyone deserves your kindness. Now, don't misunderstand me. The Bible tells us to love our neighbor, to be compassionate, to be the light in a dark world. But it also tells us to be wise as serpents and gentle as doves. Jesus himself was kind, yet he did not entrust himself to everyone. He knew what was in their hearts. And today I want to tell you, there are people in your life who take your kindness for granted, who abuse your generosity, who drain you without ever pouring back into you. Kindness is a beautiful expression of the heart, a reflection of love and compassion that can change lives. It has the power to heal wounds, mend relationships, and uplift those who are struggling. However, kindness should never be mistaken for an obligation. It is not something we owe to everyone simply because we have a good heart. True kindness is a choice, freely given from a place of love and wisdom, not something that should be demanded or expected by those who refuse to value it. Many people grow up believing that they must always be kind, no matter what, even at their own expense. They are taught to give, to be selfless, to extend grace at all times. While these values are noble, they can become dangerous when taken to an extreme. There are those who will see kindness as a weakness, an open door to manipulation. They will take and take without a second thought, believing that your kindness is their right rather than your choice. The problem arises when people feel pressured to be kind out of guilt or obligation. When kindness is forced, it loses its true meaning. It no longer comes from the heart, but from a place of fear, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as unkind, or fear of disappointing others. This is not real kindness. It is a burden. And when kindness becomes a burden, it drains a person emotionally, mentally, and even spiritually. A heart that is always giving without limits will eventually grow weary. A person who constantly pours out kindness without receiving any in return will find themselves empty. This is why it is crucial to understand that kindness is a gift, not something that should be expected or demanded. It should be given to those who appreciate it, those who value it, and those who do not see it as an opportunity to take advantage of someone's good nature. Even Jesus, the greatest example of love and kindness, was not indiscriminate in how he gave his time and energy. He was kind to the broken, the lost, and those who sought truth, but he did not waste his words on those who only wanted to argue or deceive. He understood that kindness is meant to be given wisely, not recklessly. He showed love, but he also walked away from those who did not honor what he had to offer. It is important to set boundaries with kindness. True kindness does not mean allowing oneself to be used, manipulated, or drained by others. It does not mean saying yes when the heart says no. It does not mean tolerating mistreatment just to maintain peace. Instead, it means recognizing the value of your kindness and choosing carefully where to invest it. Jesus was the perfect embodiment of love and kindness, yet he was never naive or careless with his compassion. He understood the nature of people and set clear boundaries in his interactions. Though he healed the sick, comforted the brokenhearted, and extended grace to sinners, he never allowed himself to be manipulated or taken advantage of. His kindness was intentional, not reckless. And he demonstrated that being kind does not mean allowing others to exploit you. One of the clearest examples of Jesus setting boundaries is found in John 2:24-25, where it says that he did not entrust himself to the people because he knew what was in their hearts. Though they praised him and followed him, he understood that their loyalty was shallow and temporary. He knew that many sought him not for who he was, but for what he could do for them. Despite his kindness, he maintained wisdom and discernment, refusing to give himself fully to those who were not genuine. Another example can be seen in how Jesus responded to the Pharisees. These religious leaders often tried to trap him with their words, twisting his teachings in an attempt to discredit him. Though Jesus was patient, he did not waste his time trying to win over those whose hearts were hardened. Instead, he rebuked them openly and called out their hypocrisy. He did not allow their manipulation to distract him from his purpose. His kindness did not mean tolerating deceit, and he did not feel obligated to appease those who were unwilling to receive the truth. Even in his miracles, Jesus showed discernment. In Luke 23, when Herod demanded that Jesus perform a miracle to entertain him, Jesus remained silent. He did not perform for those who had no respect for him or his mission. His kindness was not for show, it was given with purpose. He refused to let his gifts be used in a way that cheapened their value. Perhaps one of the most personal examples of Jesus setting boundaries was in his interactions with people who tried to control him emotionally. In Matthew 16:23, Peter, one of his closest disciples, tried to stop him from going to the cross. Though Peter spoke from a place of love, Jesus immediately corrected him, saying, "Get behind me, Satan." He did not allow even those closest to him to steer him away from his purpose. He loved Peter, but he did not let Peter's emotions dictate his action. Jesus also demonstrated boundaries in his need for rest. There were moments when he withdrew from the crowd, seeking solitude to pray and recharge. Though people constantly sought him, he recognized that he could not give endlessly without first being replenished. He understood that kindness must come from a place of strength, not exhaustion. And he made time to be alone with the Father so that he could continue his mission without being drained. Not everyone appreciates or values your kindness, and failing to recognize this can lead to disappointment, frustration, and even emotional exhaustion. While kindness is a virtue, it should not be given blindly to those who take it for granted or see it as something they are entitled to. There are people in the world who will not only fail to appreciate your kindness, but will also exploit it for their own benefit. Understanding this truth is crucial in protecting your heart and ensuring that your kindness is directed toward those who truly value it. One of the greatest mistakes people make is assuming that just because they treat others with kindness, they will receive the same in return. While kindness often inspires kindness, this is not always the case. There will always be those who see kindness as a weakness, as an opportunity to manipulate and take advantage of others. These individuals do not see acts of kindness as something to be grateful for, but rather as something to be expected. They do not recognize the effort, the sacrifice, or the sincerity behind the kindness being shown to them. Instead, they assume it is their right to receive without any thought of giving back. Another danger of giving kindness indiscriminately is that it can lead to a cycle of emotional drain. When someone repeatedly gives without receiving appreciation or respect, they eventually reach a point of exhaustion. It can be disheartening to realize that no matter how much kindness is extended, some people will never acknowledge it or reciprocate it. This is why it is important to be discerning about where kindness is invested. Just as a farmer does not plant seeds in barren soil, kindness should not be poured into people who have no intention of valuing it. Even Jesus encountered people who did not appreciate his kindness. In Luke 17, he healed 10 lepers, but only one returned to thank him. Though all 10 received the same miracle, only one truly recognized the value of what had been given to him. This shows that even the greatest acts of kindness can go unappreciated. If Jesus himself was not always appreciated, then it is clear that no one is exempt from experiencing ingratitude. There are also those who see kindness as a tool for their own advantage. These individuals pretend to appreciate kindness, but only to keep receiving more. They may shower someone with compliments, express false gratitude, or make promises they never intend to keep. Their goal is not to build a genuine connection, but to ensure that the kindness continues to benefit them. Once they no longer have a use for it, they move on, leaving the giver feeling used and unappreciated. Recognizing who truly values kindness requires wisdom. It is not about withholding kindness from the world, but about ensuring it is given in places where it is respected and cherished. There is nothing wrong with being selective about where to invest kindness, just as one would be careful about where to invest time, energy, and trust. Wisdom must guide your generosity, because kindness without discernment can lead to burnout, manipulation, and even harm. While it is noble to be compassionate and giving, not every situation or person deserves unlimited generosity. Wisdom is the key that helps determine when, where, and how to extend kindness in a way that benefits both the giver and the receiver. Without wisdom, kindness can be misused, taken for granted, or even become a burden rather than a blessing. One of the greatest misconceptions about kindness is that it should be given freely to all, without any boundaries. However, true generosity must be balanced with wisdom to ensure it is not wasted or abused. When someone gives blindly without considering the motives or character of the recipient, they open themselves up to being taken advantage of. There are people who do not seek kindness for the sake of genuine connection, but rather for their own selfish gain. They will take as much as they can without any intention of giving back, leaving the giver depleted and unfulfilled. Wisdom teaches that generosity should be purposeful. Just as a skilled gardener does not scatter seeds aimlessly, but plants them in fertile soil, kindness should be directed toward those who will truly benefit from it. Helping someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own actions, for example, does not truly help them. It only enables their bad behavior. There is a difference between supporting someone in need and rescuing someone who repeatedly refuses to learn from their mistake. Wisdom allows generosity to be empowering rather than enabling. Even in the Bible, we see examples of generosity being guided by wisdom. In Proverbs, wisdom is constantly emphasized as a necessary tool for making decisions, including how to help others. Proverbs 3:27 says, "Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act." The phrase, "to whom it is due," implies that generosity should be given to those who are deserving of it, not just to anyone who demands it. This means taking time to evaluate whether the act of kindness will actually help the person or simply allow them to continue in a harmful pattern. Jesus himself demonstrated wisdom in his acts of generosity. He fed the hungry, healed the sick, and ministered to those in need, but he did not allow himself to be used. He did not always give people exactly what they wanted, but rather what they truly needed. He spoke the truth even when it was uncomfortable. He walked away from people who had the wrong intentions, and he did not perform miracles for those who only sought to test him. His kindness was always rooted in wisdom, ensuring that his generosity fulfilled a greater purpose rather than being wasted on those who had no intention of receiving it with the right heart. Having wisdom in generosity also means knowing when to say no. Many people struggle with guilt when they refuse to help someone, even when they know that their help will not bring about real change. However, saying no is sometimes the wisest and most loving thing to do. It sets a boundary that protects both the giver and the receiver, ensuring that kindness remains a force for good rather than a tool for manipulation. Protecting your heart from emotional and spiritual drain is essential when extending kindness to others. While being kind and generous are admirable qualities, constantly giving without setting limits can leave a person exhausted, discouraged, and even resentful. A kind heart must also be a guarded heart, one that is intentional about where it invests love, time, and energy. Without proper boundaries, even the most compassionate person can find themselves feeling used, depleted, and disconnected from their own well-being. One of the reasons emotional and spiritual drain occurs is because some people give endlessly, expecting that others will appreciate their kindness and reciprocate it. However, not everyone operates with the same heart. There are individuals who will take as much as they can without giving anything in return, leaving the giver feeling empty. This kind of one-sided relationship can be harmful, not just emotionally, but spiritually as well. When kindness is poured into the wrong places, it can lead to feelings of frustration, betrayal, and even a questioning of one's own worth. Setting healthy boundaries is one of the most powerful ways to protect the heart. Boundaries do not mean being unkind or withholding love, but rather ensuring that kindness is given wisely. Just as a bank cannot give out unlimited loans without collapsing, a person cannot keep giving to others without first taking care of themselves. It is not selfish to set limits on how much energy is spent on those who do not appreciate it. In fact, it is necessary for long-term emotional and spiritual well-being. Even Jesus, the greatest example of kindness, took time to withdraw and recharge. In multiple instances throughout the Gospels, he stepped away from the crowds to pray and spend time alone with God. He understood that constantly giving without replenishment would lead to exhaustion. If Jesus himself needed moments of rest, reflection, and spiritual renewal, then it is clear that no one is meant to pour out endlessly without taking time to be filled again. Another way to protect the heart is by recognizing when relationships are draining rather than enriching. Some people only reach out when they need something, never offering anything in return. Others constantly demand attention, energy, and resources without considering the toll it takes on the giver. These types of relationships are not based on mutual love and respect, but on convenience for one side. Recognizing these patterns allows a person to make intentional choices about who they allow into their inner circle. Spiritual drain can also occur when kindness is given out of obligation rather than genuine love. When people feel pressured to always say yes, to always be available, or to always help others, even when they are struggling themselves, it leads to burnout. True kindness should come from a place of joy, not guilt or duty. When giving becomes a burden, it is a sign that something needs to change. Taking time to rest, reflect, and reconnect with one's own needs allows kindness to be given from a place of strength rather than exhaustion. True kindness empowers, not enables. Many people misunderstand the nature of kindness, believing that it means always saying yes, always giving, and always being available to others, no matter the cost. However, genuine kindness is not about making people dependent. It is about helping them grow. become stronger and take responsibility for their own lives. When kindness is given without wisdom, it can enable bad behavior, create unhealthy relationships, and prevent people from learning valuable life lessons. One of the most dangerous traps of misplaced kindness is enabling. Enabling happens when someone's generosity allows another person to avoid the consequences of their actions. Instead of helping, it actually harms. For example, constantly giving money to someone who refuses to work does not help them. It keeps them dependent. Covering for a friend's repeated mistakes instead of letting them face the consequences does not help them. It allows them to continue making bad choices. Kindness must always be measured against the question, is this truly helping the person, or am I making things easier for them at my own expense? There is a difference between helping someone in a time of need and creating a cycle of dependency. Everyone faces moments in life where they need a helping hand, and true kindness steps in to offer support during those times. However, when a person repeatedly takes advantage of kindness without making any effort to improve their situation, they are not being helped, they are being enabled. True kindness does not just give people what they want, it gives them what they need, even if what they need is tough love. Jesus demonstrated this balance perfectly. He showed compassion to the broken, healed the sick, and provided for those in need, but he never allowed his kindness to be abused. When people followed him simply for food and miracles, he challenged their motives. In John 6, after feeding the 5,000, many sought him out again, not because they wanted to learn from him, but because they wanted more bread. Instead of continuing to give them what they wanted, he confronted their selfishness and redirected them toward what they truly needed, spiritual nourishment. He did not enable their shallow desires. He called them to something greater. Kindness should be rooted in truth. This means that sometimes the most loving thing to do is to say no. It means allowing people to face the results of their choices instead of rescuing them every time they make a mistake. It means setting boundaries that prevent others from taking advantage of good-heartedness. When kindness lacks wisdom, it weakens both the giver and the receiver. But when it is guided by truth, it strengthens relationships, builds character, and fosters real growth. People who are truly kind understand that their goal is not to make others dependent on them, but to help them become stronger. Empowering kindness lifts people up, encourages responsibility, and fosters self-sufficiency. It does not create entitlement, but rather gratitude. It does not weaken others, but rather gives them the tools and encouragement they need to stand on their own. My friends, kindness is a beautiful gift, but it is not meant to be thrown away on those who do not value it. We must understand that true kindness is not about pleasing everyone, nor is it about sacrificing ourselves to the point of exhaustion. It is about being wise, discerning, and intentional with our love and generosity. Jesus himself set boundaries, protected his peace, and gave with purpose. If he, in his infinite wisdom, did not entrust himself to everyone, why should we? Not everyone deserves your kindness, not because they are unworthy as human beings, but because they do not appreciate, respect, or reciprocate it. Kindness must empower, not enable. It must strengthen, not weaken. It must be given in places where it can grow, not where it will be exploited. When you understand this, you will no longer be drained by ungrateful hearts or manipulated by those who only seek to take. Instead, you will walk in the freedom of knowing that your kindness is valuable and should be shared with those who truly cherish it. So today I challenge you, Give wisely. Love deeply, but set boundaries. Be compassionate, but protect your heart. And above all, remember this: your kindness is a treasure. Not everyone deserves access to it, and that is perfectly okay.